Welcome to the 7 Cents Podcast, where we go beyond dollars and cents to unlock the mindset beyond the money.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Mike Macklin, aka Money Mike, the financial Thanos, because I'm snapping my fingers and I'm turning your financial problems to dust.
And I'm Coach RL, your money mindset coach. Mind right, money right, legacy locked in.
Guys, this is not your average financial podcast. We're breaking down money myths, mindset traps, and economic game plans.
We keep it real, raw, and relevant, from micro money moves to macro financial shifts.
This is a 7 Cents podcast where your mind meets your money. What's going on, everybody? We are back with the 7 Cents. Okay, so today, that's all I'm gonna say. Today, my co-host is already laughing. I'm laughing. It's about to go down. So let's get right into it. I'm not even gonna cue this one up. We just gonna get right into this one. I'm gonna ask you guys a very, very simple question, but the question is where the heat gonna start. So my question to you all is the wealth gap really unfair, or are we just uncomfortable with the truth about how wealth actually works? So today we're going to challenge a lot of popular narratives about money. That's what this show is about. We like to challenge. We going to really shake things up. And of course, it's not just me here. Of course, I got the homie Coach Rob Simmons here in the building with me.
Family?
And we talked about this before we got on here. Rob is hyped.
Yeah.
And that got me hyped. You know what I'm saying? Because when Rob gets like this, it get me going. So you guys are in for a real treat today.
Indeed.
But before we get too deep into it, let's unpackage this. I'm gonna steal Rob's strategy a little bit, and I'm gonna unpackage this a little bit, because before we can really get into this, we gotta set some very clear boundaries, or as the Army says, we gotta set some real left and right limits on this thing. Let's talk first off. Let's talk about what the actual definition of the wealth gap is, so that you're very clear about what we're talking about. Because when we go ham, the gloves is off, but I want you guys at least rock with me for a minute. That definition in layman's terms is the wealth gap is the difference between what people own, not just what they're making. So that's the clear distinction that I want to make. Is that fair or unfair? The amount of what people own versus not just what they're earning. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Rob, what your initial impression of this? What went through your mind?
So the one thing that went through my mind is all of the countries that I've been in and looking at the different disparities of wealth gaps by country, and then looking at this country. And I definitely understand in the US, the wealth gap is huge, but it's not undefeatable. It's not, because we have a million rules. Now, I will say, when we talk about left and right limits, there are some barriers to break in that wealth gap, but absolutely nothing that's impossible. The reason I say that as well is because we talk about this wealth gap between countries, and I immediately think if I move to a different country, the wealth gap changes really fast. And so the wealth gap that we believe that exists is all fucking mental. It's all mental. It's all mental. If you really wanted to close the gap, get a fucking passport, make that couple $100 and fucking move. Get that trade skill and move. It's that simple. But you've been put into this box so long that you believe that you belong in a certain class, and some people are just comfortable. Some people are comfortable where it's at, and wealth ain't easy. Wealth is not easy. Not an easy task by all means. But there is a lot to unpack, because even we talk about the ability to have certain assets. Again, it's some gatekeeping that's happening. But again, that doesn't make it impossible. I think we look back at the history of the wealth gap, and we can talk about Atlanta right now. We can talk about Harlem. We can talk about Chicago. We can talk about Detroit, where Black people have established their own community and assets. And even that was fucking, for lack of better words, taken from them. And so it's a big conversation for me, because it touches on a whole lot of things. And when you're looking at the wealth gap, you can't look at it from an individual perspective. You have to look at it from a communal perspective, because if you're not operating within a community to create wealth, there's always going to be a wealth gap. Because when you look at what wealth is. It is a different community or class of people, not just one or two people to say, hey, he got more houses than I got. No, they got more houses than you got. And that's the reason that's happening, because you are working with you, and that's how you are looking at it. And when you say they have more stuff than we have, when we put our stuff together, that is what builds the wealth.
Okay.
That's my initial thought.
I got you. So when I first started looking at this, I don't know why I'm like this, but I like to play devil's advocate in a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm a person, I was always raised that, and especially like it resonates with me now more so than anything. The only person responsible for your life is you. Like you can, I hear what you're saying, Rob. I do, because you're not wrong in what you're saying. There are a lot of barriers that are placed in front of us. But I want to give an example. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it to make it not seem like a bias. And Rob, I want you to chime in on this too. So I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to ask you, is this fair or unfair? Okay. So let's say the perfect world came into existence, or somebody just decided, you know what, we're going to have a little experiment here. And what we're going to do is we're going to give everybody in America, because that's where we live, we say, we're going to give everybody in America $1 million. We're going to give you $1 million. What are you going to do with this $1 million? Now, again, you got that $1 million now. So a lot of those excuses are off the table now. What I'm going to say now is I'm willing to wager that the same thing will happen again. There's going to be a wealth gap again. It's going to happen again. And the reason that it's going to happen again, the systems, yes, but it's going to be because of individual behavior, the things that people do with that money. And I'm African American. Rob is African American. I'm gonna use what I've seen as an example, or the conversation I've had with people if they had $1 million. And a lot of people, the first thing they're looking at doing is giving that money right back. What they're gonna say is, oh, I'm gonna pay off some debt, or I'm going to buy a house or something like that. I'm gonna purchase something. I'm gonna give my family some money. So the first thing that the average person, from what I'm hearing, is going to do is give that money right back. That is not the mindset of people who gain wealth. I'm telling you, and it's not a selfish thing. It's not I don't want to help people, but wealthy people, the first thing that they think of is, when I get some money, how am I going to make this more money? Mm-hmm. That's the first thing they think about. Not, I'm about to pay a bill, I'm about to give something to somebody else. And that, to me, is why I personally, this is my opinion, so don't bash Rob. This is Mike. I don't think it's unfair. I don't, because if given that opportunity, I feel like the same thing would happen because of the behaviors that we've adopted right now. That is my thoughts. I'm gonna pass it to my co-host. I'm gonna see what he got to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just even take the race out of it. Again, a lot of that is programming, right? Mm-hmm. Not that you have an individual thought and you were taught that thing, but you weren't taught the right thing to do. You have, your education system is trash. You don't get financial literacy. You don't have the experience to know what anything looks like because you don't travel. 90% of the people I know ain't never left their city. There's people in Philadelphia who feel like going to Atlantic City, which is like 45 minutes away, is they out of town. And people who live in Detroit, when you go from the east side to the west side, they out of town. Or they go to Chicago and they out of town.
Yeah, so that was my biggest one. We would go to Chicago a lot.
Chicago, yeah. Either Chicago, Ohio. You go to, what's down there? Six Flags?
Cedar Point.
Cedar Point, that's right. Cedar Point. You go to Cedar Point and you out of town.
Yep.
Now that's experience. Imagine if you had the experience. And again, this is seasonal, bro. This is killing me. My nose has just been itching for the last 37 episodes. People will be like, every time he itchy nose, it must be he lying or something. Nah, this pollen is on my head. But yeah, the wealth gap is human behavior. Human behavior comes from culture and education. The culture and education is a learned form of years and years and years and years and years of programming. I say all that to say this: if I told you all of that, what you gonna do about it? And that's a big thing, and that's what Mike is saying is like, now that you sat in the seats and you had this experience, or I'm telling you, you going up the street ain't out of town. And again, the experience of buying a first class ticket, the experience of renting a luxury resort, and understanding what the wealth looks like. And this is more of a monetary, not necessarily the assets, but then being able to go into other countries, and let's say you got a $150,000 house, and that's a small two bedroom, 1 bathroom home or apartment or condo, and go see what that can buy you in Brazil, in Belize, in Thailand. See what that Ghana, see what that amount can get you, and see if your thoughts don't change on the level, the number of assets that you can have or what you make. And that's across all races. And it ain't, I can't think of that. What's the name of that show? It's, I can't think of the name of the show. Anyhow, it's the show, and it's all white kids, and the rich kids live on one part of the island. The not so rich kids live on the other part of the island. They don't want their kids to mix and mingle because they don't have a certain level of culture and education, and they just go back and forth warring through the whole scene. And it just made me think about, like, in the sense that wealth gap isn't racial, it really is monetary, and it is part of legacies and communities and networks. And I want to keep this in my network of people, so I'm gonna gatekeep this information, and that's fine if you're gonna gatekeep it, but don't block my blessings. That's how I feel, and it happens. But at the end of the day, if I did want to up, and if I just wanted to pop out and show them, if I wanted to just up and be somewhere else, I can change that gap really quickly. Even in this country, to be honest with you. Like I say, people don't have the experience. I just remember we lived in Europe for a little while, and to buy a house where we were, it was relatively expensive, and people were doing it. And the euro just a little bit more than $1, but it was affordable when it came down to the fact that if I worked in this country, I could earn more. Right, especially with my skill set. For me, it just wasn't. It wasn't for me. But the moment I came back, I was sent straight to Kansas, and then we were doing some house hunting, and I was looking at these houses: 3,400 square feet, 3,600 square feet, 400 square feet, 250. And I was like, I'm about to clean house. So I bought my house. I don't think I'm gonna say it until I sell it. What I bought it for, because I want to sell it for more when I bought it for. But I bought my house for a really good price, 3,600 square feet. And that isn't even, that's the square footage that is, what do they call it? It is basically based off of the legal floor plan. Realistically, it's probably
it's like actual square footage or something versus whatever. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so I have some rooms that don't have windows, so they don't count as rooms. It says it's a 4-bedroom, but really it's like a 6 or 7 bedroom. And two of the rooms, one is a workout room, another one is a TV room. The other one is office, just because they're not bedrooms and they don't have windows or whatever. One of them actually does have a window. It doesn't have the HVAC system or whatever. Anyhow, I say all of that to say, bought it for, I would say it was less than $250. And then you go into my next duty station, which was Washington, D.C. And we had a 2,500 square home, and I think it had 4 bedrooms and a basement, 2,600 square feet. And the valuation of this home was $700,000. It's crazy. Sometimes the wealth disparity isn't where you at. It's where you need to take your ass. That's you close the gap by taking your ass somewhere else. That's really the moral of the story is, if you feel like, hey, I can't get the assets I need off of what I got, go somewhere where you can attain the assets at your pocketbook. Right.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because that actually led to my overarching thought on this, is that the biggest problem here that's causing the wealth gap, I'm not going to say it's necessarily systemic. I say it's more so in the belief system that you have. Too many of us believe that there's just nothing we can do about it. And it's by design. I try to give people an out when I say things, but I don't want to completely just point the finger and say it's all your fault, because it's not all your fault. But when you allow yourself to become a prisoner of that system, and you no longer stop trying to fight your way out of it or do anything different, that is why a lot of times the gap continues to widen, is because in a race, there's always a chance that you can win. Anything can happen. You know, the person, look at the tortoise and the hare, for example, that story where obviously there was a huge difference in speed between a tortoise and a hare. And had that tortoise said, you know what, this rabbit is faster than me. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm not even going to try. That tortoise was going to lose. It was going to happen. And looking on the other side of that, from the hare's perspective, the hare like, okay, ain't no way this person going to catch up with me. This turtle is slow. He's not going to catch up with me. I don't have to work as hard. I can sit here and chill. And that was the fatal mistake that hare made. So I want y'all to look at this in a bigger picture. I want y'all to look at the tortoise and the hare as your own life. Right now, there's people that are really doing well, like crushing it. But I don't want you to get to the point where you say, you know what, there's nothing I can do about this. I might as well just stop fighting. That is what I really want you guys to take away from this episode. Do I think it's unfair? Again, no, I don't think it's unfair, because everybody has the same brain, the same whatever. God gave everybody the same starting point, regardless of what that looks like. The difference is what you do with what you have. Okay, if you just say, you know what, I don't have nothing, this just is what it is, then yeah, it's called the self-fulfilling prophecy. If that's what you're going to go with, then that's what's going to happen. Nothing's going to change. But if you make a decision within yourself that says, you know what, I don't care what this system looks like. Rob gave a great example. Okay, you know what? The game is messed up over here. It's rigged over here. I'm taking my ball. I'm going somewhere else. I'm going to play the game somewhere else. You don't have to stay stuck in that same spot. Rob, what you got for him? What you thinking?
Yeah, I'll go back to my initial thought, and then I'll dive into that if everybody had $1 million. This is just, I think it's important to be able to provide free game every time I get behind this mic. So put your money together. Moral of the story is put your money together, right? If you feel like you are in a spot and you are stuck and you need to make the next move, but everything becomes monotonous and redundant every day, because I see people, hey, I need this job. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I cannot afford to miss the next paycheck. All right, so this is a great opportunity if you are single or you got a couple of kids to either do one or two things. Hey, let me get with somebody who is also, I don't necessarily say interrupt, but let's get with somebody I trust or somebody that I know I can work with who has the same mindset of growth, and let's look at getting something, look at getting a house together or renting out something together for cheaper. And in that way, it'll cut some costs in housing. Now that I've cut some costs in housing, I now have some wiggle room to play with. Even if I got to move in with my mama for 3 months, just say, hey, mom, I'm paying $1,000 in rent right now. This shit ain't working out. I will pay you $500, but I need to take this other 500. Anyhow, what I'm saying is work together. It's the reason why some cultures have all 3 generations in the same house. It just makes sense. The second thing is when you work together, the second part to we're putting our money in a pot. Now that money needs to go make money. So if I had $1 million, and everybody had $1 million today and everybody got $1 million, the first thing I would do is I would get my family and some people that I trust, and we are going to sit down before we spend a nickel and make a plan. All right. And the first plan is, all right, we're going to buy either a hotel or apartment building, and all of us are going to stay in the first 2 floors, and then we're going to rent out the other 2 floors. Now, guess what? We only spent $1 million, and it's 5 of us. We still got $4 million to work with. Then we go into the next plan. All right, we're going to take this $1 million. We'll take 750 of it. Hire an investor for $250 for the year and let them grow this at 20%. And sit it somewhere where it's going to grow. All right, we still got $3 million to work with. Now you just start planting a bunch of seeds. Just telling you what I would do with my $1 million. First thing I would look at is, hey, who wants to go in with me on a bigger real estate plan where we can live in it and rent the rest of it out? That'd be my first thought, because that house going to be filled because all of these other millionaires walking around need somewhere to live. And they need somebody to pay to do it. But that would be my thing. And so I know that we are stronger as a community, stronger within as we work together. And then when we can get that type of growth mindset is, I'm not out here to do this by myself, or I'm not out here to keep it all myself. Oh, that was my other point. That's going to grow us. But the other piece of the wealth gap, and let me like flip this thing on its head, is a lot of these larger organizations have figured out how to not keep all of the money. And in not keeping all of the money, they've built a bigger level of wealth. I would say one of the examples is, and I don't even know if it's like this no more, but it's probably like this about 10 years ago. where Google was one of the top places to work. And the reason Google was one of the top places to work is because they put money back into their facilities and back into their people to educate them more, to give them more time and give them a better work balance in order to create more stuff for the company. Spend more, you get more back. For the smaller companies, they are trying so hard to keep every nickel and not pouring into their people. They in turn get further away from that wealth gap. And I will end on that note. Pour into your people, man.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, Rob really hit some nails on the head as far as understanding what to do with what you have and the power of collective synergy and coming together. I want to paint that into kind of like a relatable little image or whatever. Let's say, for instance, I'm from Detroit. Look, I'm gonna talk about my life, like real life. There's been some days that I had to deal with some people. I'm still a small guy, so imagine me younger, meaning I was smaller than what I am right now. And so in Detroit, yeah, I had to deal with some things.
Yeah.
Some people that was bigger than me that decided because I'm smaller that they gonna try to play me a little bit, try to take what I have or whatever. So I understood where I was at in life. I didn't let that stop me. I said, you know what? Okay, I'm not gonna walk anywhere by myself no more. I'm gonna bring my cousin or my relatives along with me. Have a group next time so that when I do go out to wherever it is, I'm not gonna have this problem no more. And so I want you guys to do the same, because big business, the government, whoever, these big bullies that's out there, that's putting these barriers in front of you, this is how we start to be able to have a more of a fighting chance in that. We have to start coming together. Rob mentioned, let's say they give us all $1 million. Okay, hey, let's come together. 5 of us, 10 of us. Okay, we got 10 million. Let's go get these big things and let's start to bridge this gap that way with changed behaviors and changed mindsets. Now, as I close, I want to talk to my co-host a little bit. I know there's some things that you're working on that kind of helps like bridging these gaps. I know I've looked at some of your systems and things. We've talked about your philosophies. How are you helping people bridge that gap in their own minds and in their own pockets?
Yeah, so I'll tell you right now, y'all folks can go to yourmoneygoat.com and look at a handful of the things that I got going on. Right now, I'm only running this once a month. We doing a webinar. It's called the No Gatekeeping webinar. What we do is peel back the onion of some of these things that we are talking about, to include how to close these wealth gaps and how to build generational wealth. Generational wealth is so important because it's like having your kids run a race, but you give them a 5-step head start on that race. And that's part of the wealth gap where you are playing a game of life. And some of these people already have a head start. And so how do you cut into the wealth gap? And what it is build generational wealth that allows you to cut into that. But the other piece to that is education. And that is what we do at the GOAT Legacy. And so definitely I want y'all to take heed to those things. So your money, GOAT. What you got going on, brother?
I appreciate that. Yeah, I actually, and it just started maybe about a couple weeks ago. I actually started what's called the 60-day financial reset. I like to attack money problems much like this show talked about from a behavioral aspect. So what I want to do is I want to hit that reset button for you guys. We want to restructure how you're thinking about your money. We want to look at things like, where's your money going? Different strategies to make that money do more for you. Because it's not about how much is coming in. It's about with what are you doing with what comes in. This example we used today about getting $1 million was a great example of that. If you don't understand how to properly allocate what you have, it's going to keep going back to somebody else that does understand how to properly allocate funds. So the 60-day financial reset is all about hitting the reset button on how you think about your money, how you think about the strategy of using that money. And we're going to show you how to use what you have right now and turn that into what you want. So if you go to thegreenorder.com/60-day financial reset, you actually can sign up to sit down and talk with me. We'll figure out if we're a good fit together. And if you're ready to do something instead of just accepting, then I would love to work with you and show you how to get on the right side of this.
I love it. I love it. All right, man. Again, another great conversation. Can't wait to the next one. Really looking forward to it. Got some fire for y'all for the next one. Until then, man, y'all be smooth. Take care. And I see y'all on the other side of money.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This has been the 7th Sense Podcast. We'll catch you guys on the next one. God bless you all. Gone.
You just tapped into the 7th Sense, where the mind meets the money and the legacy gets built.
It's your boy Money Mike, the financial Thanos, snapping one myth at a time and leaving no financial lies standing.
And I'm Coach RL, mind right, money right, legacy locked in. If today's episode gave you game, make sure you rate, review, and share it with someone.
Hey, follow us on all platforms and keep the conversation going, guys. DM us your questions, your myths, and your money wins.
Until next time, think deeper, move smarter, and keep building.
This is the 7th Sense Podcast. We out.